Hello, it is the 3rd of the 5th, 2012, but the exhibitions that I went to see I saw 2 days ago. Just been really tired and stressed out. The handing day is like a week away tomorrow, so that's a little bit scary. The Tuesday, um, for our studio practice lesson, we went to the Tate Britain and went to see 3 exhibitions, two of which I have the things for. The first one is called, so the first one, which is in this like really big corridor space in the Tate Britain, is called the Patrick Keller exhibition. And basically what he's done is he has researched lots of different subjects, images, films, blah, 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 to make this film, which is projected on a huge screen in the circle section of this long corridor. And then he's organised everything into kind of subsections. So you've got one like plants, machines, death, la la, so on and so forth. And you kind of, it's about how you connect one subject to the other and one image to the other, which is why they're kind of hung they're grouped rather than hung as a single item. I wasn't really keen on the layout of the exhibition, though I could see how it worked, and that as you go towards this video, you kind of understand the journey that was, and some of the imagery was really interesting. Like old prints, old photos, paintings, drawings, etchings, both old and new, just like lots of contrasting things in which you wouldn't see together, and you wouldn't even think to put them within the same train of thought, and that's what is done. And so as a process, it's very, very interesting. I don't think that the layout of the exhibition though was to my taste. What was interesting is that they had books, they had some Poe books, some other books. I only really noticed Poe because I love Poe. Edgar Allan Poe, yeah. Yeah, his book was in a case in which you could open the case, and then you were like, I can open the case, but it's like in a museum setting. Is asking, am I allowed to touch the book? Why is the case open? Why are you allowed to open the case? And you're like, oh, kind of. So that was really cool. People walking around outside. Let me think. So yeah, it's a free exhibition. Go and see it. Really, really good. As a process, layout wasn't to my taste. The way they hung up was like on these metal grates, and I think it made it more cohesive in the way it was fitted, in which it was probably the best way to do it. But the metal things, they made it look tacky-ish and not to such a high class as a Tate would have. Oh, another interesting thing is that all the images and the research material is taken from the Tate collections, and so it's again very interesting to see that people wouldn't necessarily even look at these pieces from within the Tate. They would run off to the more, famous pieces, or that whatnot, but that you're almost indulged in this new train of thought, and being able to look at the Tate collection in a new way, even if you have seen the all of the Tate collections before, because there's some obviously from the Liverpool one which I haven't been to. So yeah, go and see it just to experience it. It is very, very full on, and I would have liked to have more time there to fully understand it even further. So the next one at Tate Britain was the Tate Britain Art Now, which is basically a collection of new arts, a new collection, part of the Tate collection, which has been bought over the past 20 years. I thought it was shit overall. There was a couple of pieces. There was this photograph of this giant tree. God knows who took it. Didn't really mark down to see who did it. There was this one piece. This round circle was on the floor, and in it was a Japanese style kind of divide. You know, the things that you get dressed behind, and on there was lace and a photograph of a bookcase, or part of a photograph of a bookcase, and that took up a whole room. I give question marks to the people who this passes as art. This is some of the stuff that it says about it. Becky Besley's large hand printed silver gasoline photographs bear the unevenness of their dark room origins. Her process is arrived at through experimentation and an unusual physical approach to dark room printing. In around 2004, she began to design, fabricate and photograph her own objects instead of focusing on found modifiers. Since the time, she has developed her practice through a deep engagement with a series of Liberty works and more recently historic episodes. That may be the case, but it never showed her work. Her work looked, I don't know, I'll just repeat, it looked mediocre at best. I wouldn't even call it really mediocre. Yeah, oh god, it was about like being outside the line, outside the box, and it says that her printing skills were something of, you know, something quite special. No, they looked like a good print, fair enough, but normal. They didn't look like anything special, so I did not like that. There was one piece in the adjoining room there, which was done by Sarah Lucas, who I think was part of the Young British Artists movement, and she made these they were tights, women's hosiers, skin coloured, and she had filled them with fluff, and in the fluff there was hidden wire, and they were bent into shapes, and to first look at them you're just like, oh, it's just filled with fluff, and it probably wasn't very well made. But if you then actually look at them, they were like, because I did a really quick sketch which I'm not going to show you because it's not any good, but they kind of have connotations to, you could say they're feminist in the fact that they are liberating the use of hosiers, but at the same time they're also making them look very bad, and the fact that the fluff in them has made it look like there's like cellulite and varicose veins, and that they're very aged and tangled and fat and stretched, and that they're twisted, and you can, if you sat when I was sat down, like you can see like fat limb if you imagine, if you really sat down and imagined, and almost like sausages, like so therefore you have connotations towards meat and the women being portrayed as meat, and so if you look on the surface they're not great, but they've got an awful lot of very interesting connotations towards them. And so I think if you're able to not just look at the piece but consider the piece, then it can work really, really well. And in contrast to the room next to it, which was just on about a think that's what makes good conceptual artwork, is the fact that by looking at it you can understand